How's everyone doing? Excellent, 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 excellent. Well, I'm really excited to be here because I'm actually going to depart from the wearables and I'm going to talk a bit about the bigger picture. And that bigger picture is the changing world of business that we're in. The game has changed. But before we go into that, I want to talk about the most precious asset we all have. No matter how much money you may have or not have, time is something you cannot buy. Once it's lost, it's gone. And we have the tremendous opportunity to choose how we invest our time. Now, IDTechEx has invited me to come here and tell you that you all are wasting your time. That's right. Don't pull the mic. Don't cut me off quite yet, okay? You all are wasting your time unless you're willing to embrace the changing tides. The game has changed, folks. It really has. Now, many of you are on the tip of the spear in terms of technology, and so many are seeing this. But the game has changed. My first question to you is, why do you do what you do? Famous business consultant Peter Drucker once said, "Business purpose and business mission are so rarely given adequate thought, it is perhaps the most important cause of business frustration and failure." What is your purpose? What is your mission? Whether you're a team of one or a team of 100,000, does everyone march to the beat of your drum in your organization? When times are good, does everyone rally around and support the idea and the purpose that you're moving towards? When times are tough, does everyone rally together and look towards the North Star? Is that clear? Can the janitor to the CEO to the foot soldiers in your organization recite what you're going after? My next question to you is this: what problem do you solve? It's an important one. Whether you make widgets or you provide a service, it doesn't matter. Understanding what you do and what you provide to me and others is absolutely critical. Theodore Levitt once said, people don't want quarter-inch drills, they want quarter-inch holes. Again, times have changed. While I was doing research for this presentation, I found something really interesting, kind of stay on the theme of drills. Who here owns an electric drill at home? Okay, pretty much everybody. You guys are going to love this. So I found that the average time using that device for the life of it is 15 minutes. My God, is this not an industry that's ripe for disruption? I'm thinking maybe there's an app called, I don't know, Druber or something like that. I don't know. You guys can take that. Anyone can take that idea. It's a terrible idea. But the point is this. There is somebody that is thinking about your industry, your products, the things that you do, and thinking, is there a better way to do that? The S&P 500. This is a financial market index in the United States measuring the top 500 performing publicly traded companies. And if you look on the y-axis, you see time as you see years in volume, and then on the x, you see a time scale. The important thing to note here is that it was once common for a company to spend 60 years on the S&P 500. Now, what does that mean? That means my parents and my grandparents, if they were so fortunate to be a part of one of these companies, that when they started their career, they could build their career, and they could retire, they could get that golden Rolex, and head off into the sunset with a great pension. Now, 17 years or less, and that time is going down quickly. Disruption is contagious. We look at the taxi industry, and I think many of you can probably guess what I'm going to say next. Ride sharing has taken it over, right? Maybe many of you that aren't staying here took an Uber here, right? Or something to the equivalent, right? How about hotels? Now, the Estrel is a wonderful hotel. I love my room, okay? But there are other options. We have Airbnb. I can go stay at a stranger's house. How about books? Since 2014, I have all of my books, not on a bookshelf, but on my Kindle app. How about music? Those CDs or records, all they are is expensive coasters. MP3s have completely taken that over. In fact, I'm a dinosaur because streaming music is the future. That is what's happening now. Probably one of the most cautionary tales and tragic is film and digital photography, right? We all know the story of Kodak, right? Had the original patents to digital photography, couldn't figure out a way to monetize it, or they weren't interested in cannibalizing their business, allowed those to lapse. Now, of course, photography is ubiquitous. What rises from the ashes is billion-dollar companies. Instagram was purchased by Facebook for $2 billion. Everyone thought that Facebook was crazy. Who's laughing now? They're valued at over $60 billion. It's the biggest steal of the century up until that date. One that's close to my heart, not because I'm a shopaholic, but because I come from the apparel and footwear industry. Wow. Things are changing. If you're in the United States, you know what I mean, and globally. Who's changing the game? Companies like Amazon and Alibaba, right? You know, in the United States, for every one citizen, there is 46 square feet of retail space. Yikes. What do all these companies have in common? Yeah, they have disruptive business models. But here's the other thing. All but Amazon didn't exist in 2006. That's right. World Cup, Italy versus France. When you were sitting in the bar or at home, you did not imagine all of these things happening. Maybe you were on the trail to one or two. You couldn't imagine all these technologies coming through. It's just not possible. Now, I can be on my phone listening to music in an Uber on my way to an Airbnb where I'm going to sit on that stranger's couch to read a book on my iPad through a Kindle app. That's incredible. That is not something anybody would have known just a little over 10 years ago. So my question to you is this: who's disrupting your industry? If it isn't you, you need to figure out quickly who it is. A digital revolution is taking place. But here's the thing. Of course, it's moving at an exponential rate. See, that's a game changer. We've been really good at linear thinking. Our entire species is predicated on our ability to do this thing called linear regression analysis, right? Now, stay with me for a second here, okay? Imagine a group of us, a millennia ago. We see some mammoths maybe walking across the plain, and there's an iceberg, there's a rock, I don't know, some trees. Stay with me, folks, okay? We had the incredible ability to intercept this herd and have hunting success. We did this. And this is one of the differentiating factors from us and others, other species. We took that model and we applied it to the business world. We had a lot of success for many, many years. We've built empires using that exact model. Today, folks, you're not going to build any empires doing that. Let's take a closer look at linear versus exponential. Now, on the left, you'll see a table. On the right, you're going to see a plot of some different data points. Now, just apply your industry, apply some technology. It doesn't matter. If you have one group that's taking the linear approach, I'm going to apply what I did in the past, and I'm going to plot along, and you have another one that's taking an exponential approach, okay? Taking the road less traveled, and honestly, more frequently traveled now. You'll see that in the beginning, if you look at the plot and what's happening, it looks as if linear is crushing exponential. And this is, you can look at it as return on investment, your investors are happy, your shareholders are happy. Look at this, we're outpacing all of these other crazy people working on this nascent market or this crazy technology that's not mature or it's not going anywhere. Too many barriers, too many challenges. I don't see how it's going to happen. But if you look at the table, you look really closely, the rate of growth is completely different. This is where it gets interesting. When someone says, oh my God, that's it. We need to be doing that. Unfortunately, we know what happens. Certain folks take over the industry, others recover, many will never recover. And that's okay. That's what happens. But this is what is going to happen and continue to happen into the future. Gordon Moore, many of you are probably familiar with him, one of the co-founders of Intel, coined the phrase, or there's this law, Moore's law, right? And it's this observation of the phenomena that transistors, as they were working on them at Intel, would double in the same amount of area, and the cost would come down in half every 2 years. And it's a phenomena that continued to occur year over year and continues. And some people are maybe looking at me right now thinking, oh, it's going to die, and physics is going to take over, and there's a limitation to what you can do. Now, take it for what it's worth, but the CEO of Intel just recently said, I've heard this before, Moore's law is dead, there's no signs of it slowing down. Take it for what it's worth. But here's the thing that I love about this chart more than anything, not so much that it's going up and to the right, which is what every technologist's dream is for whatever they're working on. It's the fact that this is a logarithmic scale, folks. If I plotted this normally, it would be halfway to the moon. Can you comprehend that? Because I can't. Now, I didn't talk to Raghu about this, but I figure since this is a leading tech conference in the industry, I'd break some news. Is that okay? Can I break some news? All right, I'm really excited about this. This is a technology space that I think you guys are going to be pretty impressed by. The internet. That's right. You came all the way to Berlin to hear some crazy guy talk about the internet. Stay with me, okay? The promise of the internet is twofold. First is to connect people and machines. Now, that could be people to people, it could be people to machines, or it could be machines to machines. But it's creating pipelines, pathways, connection points between all of these disparate parts. The other thing is to share information. That's all it is. That's all the internet is. Now, there are the occasional sharing of cat videos. That's probably a third one, but I'm not going to put that up there on a slide. That's just between you and me, okay? When we take a closer look at world internet users, we see that it's about 3.7 billion people. That's still under 50% global penetration. It's expected to grow year over year, and this is a conservative estimate, about 7%, so about 4.8 billion people by 2020. Now let's take a closer look at the numbers. In North America, we see that penetration is at about 88%. In Europe, it's about 77%. Now in emerging markets, Asia and Africa, Asia is 46%, Africa 27%. Let's take another look, a little bit deeper. India, 30% penetration. They got 1.9 billion people. What does that mean when they get to 77% or 88% penetration? You know, breakthrough technologies have generally come from places like this, Silicon Valley, or New York City, or Sydney, or London, or Hong Kong, or here in Berlin. The game has changed. Great talent, great ideas can come from small villages and small communities like this. And in a very, very, very short period of time, breakthrough ideas will come from here. So what is our competitive advantage? Because the world is getting flat. Democratization of ideas and problem solving and labor is upon us. Thomas Friedman, whom some may know, he's a famed and award-winning journalist from the New York Times. He wrote a book, Thank You for Being Late, An Optimist's Guide to Thriving in the Age of Accelerations. And in the book, he talks about this billboard in Silicon Valley on 101, if you're familiar with Valley. And he talks about how it used to say, how does it feel to know that there are at least 1 million people around the world that can do your job? Look at that needling, right? These are some of the most competitive global companies. People are going to Intel, Oracle, Google, Facebook, you know, you name it. And they've got to pass this every day, right? Pretty motivating. And he goes on to say in the book that, you know, things have changed a little bit. So I've taken the liberty to just tweaking it just a little bit more. So imagine it's now saying, how does it feel to know that there are at least 100 million people and robots that can do your job around the world? Yikes. Things like artificial intelligence, robotics, the leveling of the playing field through connectivity through the internet. Game on. I had the great opportunity to go to an event recently where Shervin Pishavar and Peter Diamandis was speaking. And if you're not familiar with these two gentlemen, they are two of the most prolific venture capitalists and angel investors in Silicon Valley. Shervin was one of the first investors in Uber and many, many other ventures. Peter Diamandis is one of the co-founders of XPRIZE and Singularity University. And they were up there and they were talking about the future, similar to what I'm talking about now. But they're working on a project with Elon Musk right now, and some of you may be familiar with the Hyperloop. And if you're not, it's this, the future of, as they put it, the future of mass transportation. Essentially what it is what they're testing right now is the connection point between Los Angeles to San Francisco. They're going to be accelerating human beings 4,000 miles per hour and having them arrive safely in their destination. Now, just to give you a scale, if you're not familiar with California, it's about an 8... No problem. It's about an 8-hour drive between those two cities. They're going to reduce the commute time to 12 minutes. Now, some of you may be thinking, and it was my gut reaction too, these guys are crazy. How is this going to happen? People are become vaporized on a Monday. Like, this is insanity. But let me tell you something. If you sat in the seat that I sat in and you listened to them, you'd be buying your ticket. You'd be on the first trip down to Los Angeles from San Francisco. And you know, when they talked about this project, they didn't talk about ROI or shareholder value. Again, nothing wrong with that. Or how much it's going to cost, or the economic impact in this area. No, what they talked about was the fact that both of them travel a lot. Probably not unlike many of us, right? In the crowd, Shervin had his 14-year-old son. And he talked about how he doesn't get to spend much time with his son. And how when he is in town, he comes with them to business events like this one. And he goes to events with his son. And what drives him and Peter to have a successful project with Elon Musk on the Hyperloop was the fact that he feels in the modern world, one of the biggest travesties was the fact that we spend hours of our day commuting to work. Day after day, week after week, year after year. Folks, he wants to give us back our time. He wants to give us our lives back. My question to you again is this: why do you do what you do? What problem does your business solve? Now listen, you can think, this guy, he's gone way over the top. He has super hyperbolic. You may even agree with everything that I've said, but please promise me you'll do this one thing. Take away this one message from the talk. Act. Do something. Build something before you're ready. Talk to somebody that you wouldn't normally talk to. This room that we're in today has some of the most incredible technologists and minds on planet Earth. Behind this wall are technologies that are the future, that people may be laughing at today, but will be begging for tomorrow. Do something. Don't talk about it, don't plan it, just act. Here's the great news. IDTechEx has provided us this forum to interact with one another. Have conversations with industries and technology leaders that we wouldn't normally have in our day-to-day lives and in the corners of the worlds that we live in respectively. Take advantage of this time. Do something. My last question to you all is this: will you take advantage of this time? Thank you. Are we taking questions or no? No.